Okay, so I am also involved in a Star Trek The Next Generation rewatch, which started a couple of weeks ago. I decided I did not want to patronize Paramount, and I'm a little leery of, like, I think, we're beginning to be on the cusp of physical media kind of going the wayside, and I just wonder if people, companies like Paramount, they're going to get these bean counters in that say, hey, look, if you stop making the physical media, the people will have to, stop making Star Trek sets, and they'll have to chime in. So I'm immediately kind of freaked out. I'm like, all right, I got to get all of the series that I love on hard copy. So I wound up buying the Next Gen. So first of all, the original series was remastered on Blu-ray, and it's done letterboxed, and it's beautiful. It is a beautiful, beautiful set. They redid the planets, they redid the ships, the space battles, the phasers. Like, it's amazing. And then they actually just finished it with Next Gen. So Next Gen has a Blu-ray set, and I got it on Amazon. It is awesome. Like this, I think there's like 40 something discs in here. Now, the only problem with this set is the packaging sucks. So if you open this up, right, you've got these little trees, and they were just stacked with discs, right? Just packed. And if you want to watch anything, it's like you have to kind of, and the discs overlap, as you can see. So you kind of had to pull one out, pull another one out. These things are not very giving, very hard. And I thought, my God, how many times am I going to pull these out? Am I going to chip the plastic in the Blu-ray and make them, unwatchable? So shame on you, Paramount, because it's like, come on, do it right. So instead, I took them all out, and I bought one of these sleeves where, it's kind of like a book. You open it up, and you put each one in an individual sleeve, and I got the whole 7 seasons of Next Gen in here, right in order, one at a time. So as I'm going through the rewatch, I'm just flipping through, take the nice disc out. So unfortunately, on the shelf, these look pretty, and I have to kind of stick this above it or kind of hide it in the back. But yeah, so I was so excited to get it. And then my good friend heard that I was doing some collecting, and for Christmas he got me both the original series Blu-ray set and Star Trek Enterprise Blu-ray set, because this was obviously done digital, so they could make a Blu-ray. But this original series set is beautiful. First of all, each of the seasons is in its own little box, its own little case, and the cases are metal, right? Cool little metal cases. They pop open, and these are decent. These are like, there's not too many of the discs, so nice, right? Like really, really nice front, back, all 3 seasons in this one slipcase. So he got me that for Christmas, which was awesome. And then he got me Star Trek Enterprise, which I do like. It's probably the least of the series of the pre-Discovery series, but it's solid, and I enjoy it. And I was kind of priming for a rewatch at some point. But the Enterprise series, same crap. This horrible case that they put everything in to probably save money because they're jackasses. So I got another sleeve and put all the Enterprise ones in. So I have this lovely item on the shelf, and I got to hide kind of the discs behind it, which I don't like. So Next Gen, I think I've seen the entire season at least once, and then probably have snuck back in, and seen a bunch of episodes. Next Gen. So first of all, Patrick Stewart, man, like, part of me, I love Trek and I love the show, but part of me is like, why you're a classically trained Shakespearean actor? What the hell were you doing in Hollywood with a troupe of actors who, on their best day, were like 3/4 of you? Like, you're on your own, buddy. Like, how? I don't understand. It's weird. I don't understand how he decided to do this show for 7 years. Maybe he thought, if I have a steady gig, on my off time when I'm not filming Trek, I can go do Shakespeare, and I do. But it's just bizarre. Like, I don't know that I've seen another TV show that has had such a stark disparity in the main lead and the rest of the cast. Now, I love the cast. I'm not knocking anybody, and there are times when people come up to his level, which is nice. But he's amazing. Like, he really anchors the show in such an incredible way. And the thing what's great about the character is that he's not a marshmallow and he's not a jackass. Like he's not Kirk. He has Kirk's command and toughness, but he has what Kirk doesn't have, which is, I don't know. There's a concern for how he kind of helps his crew members. Like it's almost like a family, and he's the father. And he really looks out for the people working under him. And so there's the wonderful mix of him being this like, I can talk to you 1 minute about like, hey, I really want you to do well, and you get what you need, blah 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 blah. But you were 2 minutes late for your shift, you son of a bitch. Like don't mess up my command. Like he's tough, but he's also very fair, and he looks out for his people. So it's awesome. As someone who has had questionable father figures in his life, like my eyes are moist like every third or fourth episode, because he's like, he fosters people's careers, and it's just such a great way. So he's amazing. Spiner is very good. And there are times when Spiner, when he and Spiner are together, and you're like, man, he's really going toe to toe with Patrick Stewart. Now, Spiner came from theater, so he has some chops. Q also at times can do face to face with Stewart, and I feel like he's also John Delancey has a wonderful delivery. He's also a big kind of actor. And then the rest of the cast are hit and miss in terms of stature. I mean, I love them all. I don't know that I have a favorite. I don't think, other than Pulaski, which I'll talk about a little bit, I love them all, right? So let me just go through. I've watched the first 2 seasons so far. I want to go through kind of some highlights of what I loved about it. So in season 1, you have Data Lore, which is an episode where they find another version of Data. It was kind of the first one they made, and it was a bad seed, and so they deactivated him, and now and they find him, and Spiner's great because Spiner plays both sides of the coin. He plays both, and it's wonderful to kind of have Data contrasted with a really bad version of him, and so I really enjoyed Data Lore. There's an episode called Coming of Age, where Wesley Crusher has to go, and it's kind of like a competition to get into Starfleet Command, and there are like 3 other Academy potentials. And I love I'm an unabashed Wesley Crusher fan, by the way. And he gets a lot of heat, I think, but I love him. I think he's great. I like that, he's a kind of a lightning rod where the cast come around to foster him. And there's a scene that always brings a tear to my eye in the second season when Gates McFadden leaves the show because of some issues she had with the producer. And so Pulaski comes on, and he stays. And there's a scene in that episode, like the first episode of that season, where it's like, Data's in charge of his upbringing, and Troy's in charge of this, and Riker's in charge of that, and like they're all going to become his parents. And I'm just sort of like, oh my god, that's great. So but I think Will Wheaton does a great job. But I think the character was wonderful here, because what happens is he goes out of his way to help his other classmates at the cost of him doing less well on the tests, and he doesn't get in. Like he doesn't get into the academy in this try, which was great. I thought, which is what I so love about older Trek, where it's not about winning and being you're awesome, you're cool, you win at everything. Playing things up as all the characters having to be impressive, which I watched the first season of Discovery, and I had to take a shower afterwards. I couldn't stand it. But it completely lost what Trek had. To my mind, it really lost what Trek is all about, and what I love about it, I should say. Everyone looks at it differently. Everyone has a different approach. So anyway, a wonderful, wonderful episode that he was in. So there's one called Heart of Glory, where a couple of Klingons come on the ship. And it's the first time that Worf is sort of with his kind that we've seen. And they're like, come on, Worf, aren't you afraid of this? And don't you like to do that? And at first, they kind of look and feel tougher than Worf, and they're more Klingon than he is. And then Worf's character kind of comes through, where he's like, you know what, I get what you guys are about, and I do that, but I've evolved. I'm this person too now. And what's wonderful about that episode is the Klingon death ritual. I think I'm gonna make sure. Yeah, when this is so good. The Klingon lore is so cool. no shade on the original series, but man, next gen Klingon lore, they really, it went through the roof. So when a Klingon dies, the other Klingons gather around, they open his eyes, and they scream, and it's like we're letting hell know that a Klingon is about to arrive. It's like, I'm getting goosebumps just like saying it. It's so cool. And they do it, and they put the camera above. So, the shot is you see Worf and the other characters looking up. Whoa! So great. I mean, just one of those moments when you're just like, oh, next gen. But huge misstep in this season was the death of Tasha Yar. Like, yeah, she wanted to leave the series. That's fine. But what a senseless, nothing death in a very cheesy, boring episode of like, it's just an evil tar pit, basically. The Enterprise versus an evil tar pit. Tasha dies early on in the episode. And they do a little bit of like, we miss her at the end. But it was like, she didn't die for a reason. And you could go either way with that. You could say that like, it's a tougher, dramatic thing of a character dying for no reason. That's sort of like more realistic, more lifelike. Like, oh shit, she's just, when you're on a starship, man, sometimes people just die and there is no reason, blah, 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 blah. And that could be a take. But I feel like the show actually has to embrace that. And it didn't. And then the opposite is obviously if they die for a real reason. They do a wonderful redress on this in season 3, which I'm watching now. And I'll get to, I guess, in a couple of weeks, where they kind of fix this, which is great. But yeah, like, shame on them, Tasha. They were really messed up about the women. I mean, my God, they killed Tasha, bad death for Tasha because she wanted to leave. Gates McFadden basically was like, could people talk more to me? Could I be more involved with my son? And the one producer was like, get her off the show, And then Marina Sirtis had to say, I don't want to wear dresses that show my cleavage anymore. And they're like, come on, So there was some really nasty, retro shit back then with the women. I got to give them credit for sticking it out because the female members of this cast are amazing. So, but yeah. And then the weird, I think second to last episode of this is the conspiracy episode when the little creatures get inside. It's almost like Wrath of Khan. They took a little page from Wrath of Khan when they put the little earwigs in them. So it was a weird tone. And there were a couple of episodes where they briefly foreshadowed that episode where they're like, there's a conspiracy within, Starfleet. One admiral says to Picard, and Picard's like, just keep your eyes open, don't trust anybody. And I was like, oh my God, that's so not Trek, And it turns out to just be, these little aliens. And then they leave it where like they sent a message out to the galaxy. And I guess maybe at some point they were letting themselves open for if they wanted to resume this and bring those creatures back. But I don't think they ever did as far as I can recall. So that was season 1. I mean, a good start. Season 2 was another mixed bag. Again, like I said, Gates McFadden gone. Pulaski, Diana Muldaur came in, who was actually briefly in the original series. I forget what episode. I'm not that geeky about it, but she was in the original series a long time ago. She's okay. I mean, it's easy to hack on Pulaski because it was a thankless job. First of all, Gates McFadden is very pretty, very feminine, very becoming, and kind of elicits instant sympathy. Oh, we like Gates McFadden. Yeah, she's a good mom. She's tough. She goes out after Picard when she wants what she wants. But she's pleasing. And Muldaur was kind of more McCoy. I think they were kind of throwing her into... But the problem is the minute she came on, they played up the parts about her that rubbed raw before they built up her character, which I thought was a mistake. Because I think she could have worked. But she starts out by like ignoring Picard and going to 10 forward, and then she disobeys this order. Then she's very dismissive of Data. I think that was going to be, that's like the arc of one of the arcs of this season is sort of like, Pulaski. Basically, he's a machine. He's a calculator. Who cares? And I think by the end of it, she's recognizing that, which is okay. I get it. But to come on to replace a character. Who knows if Gates McFadden was super popular yet, but you're replacing a character and the writers are already making you kind of acerbic and irascible and unlikable. And they never really she at one point they played her up as being brilliant, like she was the master of these surgical techniques. And she really was passionate about medicine, whatever, but she wasn't a very sympathetic character. The writers really didn't know what to do with her. They didn't. Again, I feel like they were like, let's make her kind of like more like McCoy, where Crusher was her own person, much more soft. Let's get more of a McCoy thing going up against Picard. And I don't know, it didn't work. It just didn't work. And no shade on Diana Muldaur. I just feel like they didn't know what to do with Pulaski. So that's Pulaski. Has to be dealt with. Okay, so now we're starting to do holodeck episodes, which are very hit and miss. Elementary Dear Data, I like because of the ending. They create a Moriarty, but they mistakenly give him all these controls, and they take the holodeck protocols down, so Moriarty takes control of the ship. But I love this about Trek. This is one of the things I love about them. So at the end of the episode, they don't beat Moriarty. They reason with him, and they tell him they kind of tell him what he wants to know. And they say, listen, this is what you are, this is what happened, blah, 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 blah. And he's, he could make it a lot worse for them. He has full control of the ship, and he could do a lot of things. But he chooses to walk off into the sunset on his own. And it's like, it's a tearjerker. He's sort of like, I understand what's going on, and I've relinquished control of the ship to you, and they're going to put him back into sort of stasis, so his consciousness will be on hold until they figure out whether they're going to use him for something else or not. I don't remember if he comes back. It's been a while since I've watched this series, but it was I love those beautiful endings when it's like reason, like the bad guy kind of comes to this reason and surrenders. It was just beautiful, so I liked it a lot. A Matter of Honor is one of my favorite episodes. Riker goes to a Klingon ship when there's an officer in exchange program. Although no officer comes to the Enterprise that I remember. But he goes over there and he has to toughen up and eat gach, the Klingon food, and do all this stuff. And it's awesome. I mean, I love Riker. Riker's such a great character. And Jonathan Frakes just plays him to the hill. He's got this little twinkle in his eye half the time. And it's kind of Jonathan Frakes' episode. It's really wonderful. So love it to death. Measure of a Man was great because it was the episode that kind of legitimized Data as an autonomous human being, kind of in the legal structure of the Federation, which was great. Kind of a routine courtroom drama, if you will. But again, what I liked was the lawyer that they chose. They're at the starbase, and the lawyer at the starbase, I think, at once prosecuted Picard or either defended someone. He was kind of adversarial with Picard years ago in a court case, and Picard was kind of like, I don't even want to talk to you, what you did. Like, he was really, and she's kind of playful with him, like, oh, Jean-Luc, come on. But he knows that she's really good, so when it comes that they're going to take Data away or disassemble him, he goes to her and he's like, I don't want to be here, but you're really good. And again, it's that thing, the meritocracy of Trek too. It's sort of like, I love that, like it's respect for someone's it's respect for someone's skill and someone's merit and what they're good at. And they could have, like a modern TV show would have done this 1,000 different ways of someone like tricking someone, and then there would have been some other nasty thing that happened, and then someone would have won or beat the other person. But Trek chooses to all right, it's going to be this grudging appreciation of each other. And then, in the end, it's Picard's character that wins the day because he inspires her to really do an amazing job. So it's great. I love it. And Data, now is a legitimized being in the Federation. The Icarus Factor is this thing where Worf, it's kind of like Amok Time in a way. Something's up with Worf. Nobody knows what it is. Wesley is really interested, so they do all this research, and he's going through a time in his life. It's sort of like a rite of passage, and he has no Klingon friends to do it with. And so they all figure out what it is, and then they surprise him by setting up the holodeck for the ritual, and I'm bawling. Like imagine being amongst friends like that, where, people know what's up and they figure out what it is, and then they go through all this trouble. And, when he comes up in that moment to the holodeck and they're like, Worf, we're here for you. We're your friends, and we're going to go through this with you. I'm like weeping like a 10-year-old. It's beautiful, but like this is why I love Trek. You know, it's not like it's not Succession in space. You know, as I think Discovery kind of is, which is weird. But it was awesome. It was awesome. Anyway, so I loved it. And then a first encounter with the Borg, Q who. So Q brings them like a gajillion light years out into the galaxy, and they have this encounter with the Borg, which is kind of weird because it's very. It doesn't make any. You know, they're way out there. They go on the ship. It's an introduction to the Borg, and then we don't see the Borg again until the end of season 3. You know, like this was like season 2. We get a brief Borg smattering. They probably couldn't afford it. And then season 3, I think it's Best of Both Worlds, which is the big, you know, I don't know if there's another Borg episode before then. Again, I'm quite at the halfway mark at season 3, so I might be wrong there. But, and then there's an embarrassing episode in season 2. The last episode of the season, I read up a little bit about this. I think it's called Shades of Grey. Riker gets hurt, and he's in kind of a coma. He's in and out, and he's going through all these memories, and the memories are clips of previous episodes. And I think the CBS brass were like, look, we're out of money. What can you? We need you to write an episode for like, you know, that we make no money. So they wrote this cheesy episode where it's almost like a soap opera. You know, will Riker survive? And he's having memories of previous missions that we've seen before. It's abysmally bad. It's so funny, like the ups and downs of commercial television, and like, you know, a certain episode ends up a certain way because of money, basically. So it was really funny. So yeah, so that's the first 2 seasons of Next Gen. I'm continuing on. So hopefully, as I get more in the mode of dropping these episodes weekly, I will, you know, every week I'll drop 2-3 more episodes that I like, and so on and so forth. And I just love it. And hopefully I'll keep going. I want to do a Voyager rewatch because it's been a while, and I really liked Voyager. So yeah, hopefully that will be on the horizon.